On this, the anniversary of last year's deadly bombing at the Boston Marathon, we'll talk with that city's former mayor and a terrorism expert about the lessons learned. Plus, why is the United States the target of Muslim extremists? Hello, I'm Anand Naidoo in Washington, D.C., and this is The Heat. It came out of nowhere, two bombs shattering the jubilation that greeted exhausted runners nearing the finish line of last year's Boston Marathon. When the smoke cleared, the grim scene revealed 3 people dead, more than 260 injured, some with lost or shattered limbs, and 2 brothers with Chechnya roots and anti-US sentiments charged with responsibility. But on this day, the anniversary of last year's tragic events, they gathered in Boston to remember. Later, we'll talk with a terrorism expert. But we begin with the man who served as the mayor of that city for nearly a decade, Ray Flynn. Mayor Flynn, thanks for joining us.
Sure.
You're a runner. You've raced in New York, you've raced in Rome, in Dublin, and of course, Boston. Can you explain to us, and when I say us, I mean our international audience, what makes the Boston Marathon so unique?
Well, the people of Boston have worked long and hard over the decades to make the Boston Marathon a premier world event long before it was popular in other parts of the United States or even the world, except for Athens, of course. But a number of reasons are because of the pride that Boston has in athletics and sports, all the colleges, the universities, the earliest universities, professional teams, the Celtics and the Red Sox and the Bruins and Patriots and all of that. So we have a fierce interest in pride in athletics here in Boston and have over the years. And, you know, it's nothing to do with politics. It's not about making a political statement. It's all about our determination, our resilience, and our pride in sports. And sports brings about unity is how we look at it, and we've felt this way for, well, over a century.
Right, this year's race is expected to attract something like 36,000 runners. That's going to be 9,000 more than last year, and about 1 million spectators are going to be lining the route there. Now, that's a pretty impressive turnout, especially when one sees that after a devastating attack that took place a year ago. How has the marathon and the city itself changed in the aftermath of that attack?
Well, I think the having this kind of bombing and this kind of event, you know, caught everybody off guard. You know, you place confidence in the hands of public safety and security professionals, and you assume that from the federal government to the state and local police, you assume that this is what they do best and this is what they're protecting, what they do, what they're trained to do. So it's not an issue that the people have really given much attention to, but of course now we have, especially not only since the Boston Marathon, but going back to 9/11. So it's a different city, it's a different country, and we're more observant of things around us than the innocence that we once had. We're an open city. We're a city that welcomes people from across the world. We're a city of immigrants. Most of the families here have lived here, have come from different parts of the world and welcomed here in the city. And we didn't expect the kind of hatred and directed animosity towards our great events that we receive. So we're a child who's learning how to deal with international terrorism. Unfortunately, the innocence is behind us.
And when one looks at the obvious security concerns that a city like Boston would have when you have a major event like the Boston Marathon, I mean, there's going to be something like 3,500 police officers guarding this event. You've got 100 additional cameras watching events as well. And I was wondering, how does the mayor of a city like Boston balance obvious public security concerns without restricting liberties and freedoms that a city like Boston offers?
Well, there are some, you know, I'm no expert in terrorism, obviously, but I was at the Boston Marathon last year, And walking down Boylston Street, I noticed so many people with backpacks carrying these big bags on their shoulders, a lot of them young people. And now I'm no young kid, so I have a hard time understanding what they carry in those bags. And I said to my wife, and I was with my grandson, I said, what are they carrying in those bags? Water? They don't want to buy water. They want to bring the water from home, the local corner store. And we were unable to answer that question. So I think you begin there. And then you train the police officers so that they're observant of suspects all around them. And lastly, not lastly, but and something that occurred to me going way back to the 9/11 is why there isn't more coordination between federal authorities and local and state authorities. You know, you would think that they have these international organizations for security. What do? Do they confer with one another? Do they share information with one another? If they don't, then they ought to do that. And I'm wondering what terrorist experts did years ago if they didn't think of what we thought of right after the bombing of the Boston Marathon last year.
But I guess, relatively speaking, the United States has avoided or has managed to undo many of the plots that you know, were in the making against cities and other parts of the country. But now, with more information being available on the internet, as we've seen in the Boston Marathon, teaching people how to make bombs, etc. I mean, how does the mayor reassure people that, you know, these events are safe, that they can enjoy events like this?
Well, it's not a political statement. I wish we would not make it, you know, turning it over to politicians to provide public safety for the people. That's the role of the FBI. That's the role of the state and the Boston police. They have to be well-trained, and we have to have experienced professionals dealing with that. And also all the attention that it gets, if you don't mind me saying it, it creates an atmosphere for people who are looking for attention, who want to make a political statement. Well, there it is. In big events, a baseball game or a football game or a marathon, this is what they're looking for. They're looking for attention. They're looking for to be able to make a political statement, and it only has to be one or two people that are deranged and sick and backward. Here they are. They're now celebrities, and the rest of us have to suffer as a result of their behavior.
And looking at the other side of this, you've been in the diplomatic corps. Is there a lot more work to be done by the United States in the sphere of public diplomacy to quell anti-U.S. sentiment around the world?
Yeah, I think so. I really do. You know, when I was mayor, I thought my first job was bringing people together. I didn't care if you were from Ireland or Italy or Africa or China or whatever it was. I thought my job, and I felt my job, was to make people feel welcome and accepted in our city. We never had any of these kind of situations, but now it seems like everything is polarized, everything is divisive, contentious, and meetings, and we can't get along, we disagree with everybody. You know, this plays into the hands of people who see this, and they think that they can make a welcoming statement by showing that they're going to exercise their power, their authority on innocent people. And innocent, unsuspecting people take their kids over there. My daughter and her family were over there, 4 kids, and they were sitting there, right there at the finish line. Those kids are still talking about that incident at the Boston Marathon last year. They don't want to go to the marathon this year, and I don't blame them. But, you know, so if we continue to give it the kind of attention that these terrorists are looking for, I think we're playing into their hands. I wouldn't give them that much attention. I would ignore them, to be honest with you. It's easier said than done, but that's what I would do. I would ignore them and not give them the attention that they are looking for.
Mayor Ray Flynn, thank you for joining us, sir.
Sure.
We are going to take a break right now. When we come back, we'll talk to a terrorism expert. Stay with us. You're watching The Heat.